everyone, and welcome to Two Goals. I'm Maria Laura,
And I'm Katia.
and today we have the chance to talk to an actually living legend, and we aren't just quoting FIFA. French professional footballer, second most capped player of his national team, bachelorette in arts and communications, ambassador for the Women's World Cup in France 2019, and the current Secretary General of the French Football Generation. Lovely audience out there, we're happy to introduce you to Laura George. Thank you so much, Laura, for coming to our podcast.
Merci. Thank you for the invitation. It's my pleasure.
If we tell our audience that your childhood included the Palace of Versailles as the place where you play football with your friends, maybe they will think you kind of live like this fairy tale and your pathway was easy. Can you explain to us, can you explain to us how this dream to become a professional footballer started?
Wow. It's true that I grew up in Versailles, in the park of Versailles, because my dad is still working in the park. So I started to play football with my friends. It was the easiest sport I could do. I just have to go out of my apartment and then play on the grass of the park. But I never dreamed of being a professional football player. I just knew that I liked to do something on the side of school, of going to school, and I enjoyed playing with my friends. And I remember I was in the yard of my high school, and a girl saw me play with some guys at lunchtime, and she said, "Oh, maybe you should come practice at PSG training ground." And then I was like, "Oh, maybe." And then 1 year later, I was like, okay, I want to do something besides going only to school. So I went to the tryout of PSG, not because it was PSG, a famous club with great players, but it was just because it was the closest place to play football with women, with young girls. It was like 15 minutes of drive, 15 minutes driving from my place. So I decided to try out at PSG, and it went well. And this is how I started to play football. But I never wanted to be a professional. I just wanted to have fun. I just thought that through football, I could inspire people who are handicapped. I was really sensitive, and I'm still sensitive to people who are like disabled. And I thought that by playing football, I could touch people. I could make people happy. And at this age, I was around 12. The only people I could see who were able to make people happy was the athletes. And so I was like, okay, thanks to football, maybe I will be able to meet people with disabilities and to make them happy. So this is how I started, and I played football. And then I got the chance to be called to play for my region's team, and then to be watched by the national team coach, Elisabeth Loisel. She saw me at the tournament. I was 15 years old, and then she decided to invited me to the National Institute. It was in 1999, 1 year after the Men's World Cup. France has decided to have the first institute for women to prepare for the elite tournaments, to prepare the girls to maybe win a World Cup in France. I was invited by the national team coach at this time, Elisabeth Loisel. And then this is all it started, and I say, okay, I'm now with the elite players, so maybe I can do something. Maybe I can play at the national team level. And I don't know if you know Clairefontaine, but Clairefontaine is the place where you have all the international players. So you have all the Zidane coming to train, and they live in the castle. And the place we were with my other teammates was like a small building. And every time I was passing by the castle, I was like, wow, I hope one day I can live in this castle for for a camp with the girls, with the national team. And then I got the chance to get in the national team. I was 16 years old, and I played for the national team 17 years, and traveling around the world and playing in big clubs. And this is my career. I mean, part of my career.
Yeah, and it was exactly in Clairefontaine we think, that you met where you met your idol. You have
Exactly.
mentioned before that Lilian Thuram was one of your favorite all-time players and reference. Can you tell us how was it to know him personally, to witness how a footballer can start a career outside the pitch, developing strategies to contribute to a better industry, and how relevant is for an individual to be aware of others' paths to follow?
Oh, I was pretty lucky that I discovered Lilian Thuram during the World Cup. It's not that I knew him for a while, but I saw him play in the World Cup. And for those who were born in 1990, who were born before 1998, they saw the World Cup in France, and Lilian Thuram scored those 2 goals. Since then, I was interested in getting to know him, the type of person that he was. And when I integrated the National Institute, he was one of the only player when he was passing by the girls. He was always like saying hi, always like asking us questions. And one day I was thinking, I was like, oh, I hope one day I can tell him how much he means to me as a young girl from the Caribbean, because his family is from Guadeloupe, my family is from Guadeloupe. And what I was the most impressed, he was a famous player, but he was so humble, so nice. So I grew up, I was lucky to one day meet him and to sign a shirt for my friend. Usually I never talk to players, but I went to talk to Lilian Thuram that day. And he said, so what's your name? And then we started discussing. And then he said, one day I will offer you my next jersey. And I was like, in my head, I was like, oh, it's not going to happen. But he did. He offered me his jersey, he offered me his short, he offered me even the socks. And since then, we stay in touch. Every time he was in Clairefontaine, he was asking to see me. We were able to discuss about his career, about my career. And since then, we became friends. And we are still friends. And even when he finished his career, he told me, I will come to see your games. And when he retired, he came to see my games during the World Cup in 2011. When I was playing for PSG, he was coming with his sons. His sons are now professional players. So I've been really lucky, and I'm really privileged to have him as a friend, because it's not just about football. It's about sharing ideas, seeing the world differently, and it teaches me as a player, and more importantly, as a human, that sometimes we have to step up. We are not just athletes. Sometimes we have to step up for others, and we have to be true to ourselves. So, yes, this is how he inspired me in my career, and now today in my everyday life. But you had other question.
No, yeah, but do you think it is important for footballers? I mean, not only women, but men, to have some leaders, for some people to look after, to try and contribute in a way that similar as they did before?
I think it's really important to use our voice. I would say we are the voice for the voiceless. Because today, as you see, whenever something is happening, most of the time, and I can see in my country, that people, when something is happening in politics or in sports or in general for different subjects, they ask the famous people to talk. Some of them don't know about the subject, but some of them who are interested in different things, they have the voice. And they can bring another perspective. They can talk for those who cannot talk. I think we have, but I think it has to be authentic. People who are the opportunity to bring something to the industry or to bring things to share their experience have to do it. And I think it's also important to share our experience with the other generation. Today I got more confidence because I have mentors around me. Lilian Thuram was my mentor when I was a player, and is still one of my mentors. And today, as a woman in management in my federation, I also have my mentors. They're really important because, life is not that easy. It's not like a steady line where everything is good and you are young and everyone is supporting you. No, it's not like this. So it's important to rely on people who want to make us grow as human. So it's important to, so I had my mentors, and today as a maybe quote unquote young leader, I try to also help the other generation.
Thank you for clarifying that. And that's actually what we're trying to do here, to try and build this family and try to encourage that, to let our audience like us, for example, who are kind of like the target itself, to try and believe in that there are people who have accomplished a lot in different ways, that are coming from different backgrounds and countries and cultures, and that they can also do it, and that there is plenty of things to share and work together. I think that's really huge. And actually, I know that what we have found through these interviews is that you footballers, you have this crazy career. You start becoming professional in so many ways, like personal as well, not only professional in sports, from a very young age. And in 2004, 2007, you moved to the US to start a bachelor degree in arts and communication. So in a way, like many, you choose this promised land for women that wanted to play college football as well as pursuing higher education degrees. Can you tell us about this experience? How was it moving to a different continent, to a different country with different friends and culture, and even changing the style of playing football?
When I decided to go in the US, I felt it was time to leave France. At this time, I was 18 years old, 19 years old. I was playing in the first division. I was studying in a management school with I was in a special management class with other athletes, high-level athletes. And when I was looking at my career as a player, I was like, oh yeah, I'm happy. I'm playing in first division with PSG. But I didn't really like the atmosphere. I was really criticized by the environment because I was like a really tough player. So some players couldn't stand to play with me. And then I was even still in the institute, so training every day. And in order to go to my management school, I had to get up at 6 o'clock to go to La Défense to study. And then I got this opportunity from Boston College, who came in spring break, and they play PSG. And at this time, so I was able to play against Boston College. They asked me if I was interested in studying abroad, if I was interested in playing for their school. And then I was like, it's a life opportunity for me. It's a life opportunity to see a different culture, to study in a good school, because Boston College is a good school. And I was like, okay, let's try. So right after playing Boston College, I had maybe 1 month where I translate all my classes, my management class. I was even invited by Boston College to visit the school, and I got, I didn't know, but I had an interview. They wanted to know my English level. They wanted to see if I was able to have like a good conversation and everything. And everything went well, and I was like, oh, I think it's time for me to go to the US, to study abroad, to study something different. So I went to the US, and I used the fact that I was an international player to play in this big school, because I got like a scholarship. But I wanted to have like a higher education, and Boston College gave me this opportunity. So for me, it was not just about thinking about being a player from the national team. I was like, it's okay if I leave France and I'm not in the French national team anymore. I wanted to have like a better education. I was using football to give me the opportunity to live the American student life. And it was great. And then right after finishing my career, my 3 years degrees in Boston, because I was transferred, I arrived as a sophomore, so I had 3 years. Then when I graduate, I got an opportunity from Olympique Lyonnais, and I went back home. And I after my having my bachelor degree in communication, I went back to France, play for Lyon, and pursue a master degree in marketing and communication.
So as you said, you finished your degree and you moved back home.
Mm.
You started playing for Olympique Lyonnais. And this was at the beginning of this big machine that is Olympique Lyonnais now. Women looking at the way they have invested, not only financially, but also in terms of infrastructure and with Jean-Michel Aulas support since the beginning. Summing it up, they took women's football seriously since day one. Were you able to predict back then the results that the club has accomplished now?
No, 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 no. I couldn't predict that the girls will still be on top and could be today. It's really hard to reach Lyon. To beat Lyon, it's really hard. But I know we had like a good structure. And as you say, the project around the women's team that Jean-Michel Aulas believed in, because it was someone from another club, from a club from the city, who brought the project to Jean-Michel Aulas. And Jean-Michel Aulas is a manager who can see further than the others. And he said, yes, I'm going with this project, and he's been doing a lot for the girls. It's not, and as I always say in conferences when I meet people, it's not about the money. It's about the passion of the leader who is giving, and who is giving not only financial support, but who is giving infrastructure to the players, who is giving good quality of good quality, good life quality. So players have a good like training centers. They have like doctors. They have physiotherapists. They have people around them to be in the best environment. So the girls are treated as the men. And 1 month ago, you could hear about the bonus that the president gave to the players because they were reaching the final, or because they won the final of the Champions League. They give the same amount as the men when they qualified over Juventus. So it's really respecting the players. And yes, I could feel that we were going to do something. When I arrived in Lyon, we were reaching the semifinals of the Champions League. And then we reached the final. We lost the first final, but then we won twice in a row. Then we lost, and then I left. And the girls are like continuing to win. I'm not surprised, because the girls are still working a lot, and the club is giving them all they need to be at their best. Infrastructure, financial support, great environment, and great support, human support. It's really important.
Mm-hmm. And did you completed a prolific career in France when you moved to PSG, where you spent 5 years? It's like nearly 10 years or more in the top 2 clubs, in a way, if we spoke about women's football in your country. Did you sense any rivalry at the time between those clubs? And was it difficult for you to adapt because of this? And also, adding to that, do you think women's football sense of rivalry is different than in men's football?
When I was playing in Lyon, and there was no rivalry with PSG. The big rivalry that we had with for Lyon was Juvisy, who is now Paris FC. But it's true that when I moved to Paris, PSG was starting to be serious in the championship, the women's championship. Because we were the second team that everyone was expecting in Champions League. So I could feel like the girls of Lyon were like thinking that people were already seeing them on the side. And so they knew that PSG was going to be the real rivalry. But it's not the same atmosphere as the men, because I play PSG Marseille. PSG Marseille is like the biggest rivalry in France. But when you play it with the girls, it's not the same, because we don't have all the history behind. But I think the rivalry are really different from the men, because we don't have the same background, the same history.
And after PSG, you ended your career in 2018 with Bayern Munich. Why choosing Germany to continuing your career and also to retire there? And if you can tell us, were there any specific features to learn from their professional women's football?
First, I moved to Germany because I was not playing in PSG anymore. I didn't have like an easy career. I moved from Lyon to PSG because the coach of Lyon didn't want me to be in Lyon anymore. So I moved back home. I say home because it's really home when I play for PSG. And then I went back to PSG at the end of my career, and I thought I would be finishing my career, and it would have been the best ending for my career. But the coach of Lyon moved also to PSG. And after 2 years, he put me on the bench. He's not even put me on the bench. He put me in the reserve team. I was still playing with the national team. And he put me in the reserve team who was starting, who was in the lowest league of women football in France. So I could win a game, 28 goals. And I scored 3 goals. And then I was like, this is not what I'm supposed to play. I mean, not now, maybe later, but not as an international player. So I know the coach was doing it in purpose to put me in the reserve team. So I decided to leave the club. And at the same time, the president of the federation told me, all right, Laura, you are the general secretary of the French Federation. You're not playing with your club. So maybe it's time to make a decision. Would you continue to play, or do you want to stop do you want to stop your position at the federation? Because I was appointed as general secretary in March 2017. I was the sole player. This is never happened for any man or woman to be a professional player and to be a general secretary of a federation. But that was my case. And I was not playing football anymore. So I had to make a choice. So I told my president, I said, President, I need to see if I still have the heart to play at the high level. So I'm going, and if you agree, I would like to try to play abroad for my last experience. If I feel I can still play, I will stop the position at the federation. But if I feel football is not for me, I will be back at the federation for good, and I will stop my career. And then he said, okay, because he couldn't change the general secretary from one day to another. I said, okay. And then you make the decision. So I decided to go to Germany because it's a tough championship. And I wanted to see if I still had the heart. Because if I had the heart to play in Germany, I could maybe potentially be in the squad to play the World Cup. But when I moved to Germany, I felt it was too much for me. It was not, my heart was not in football anymore. So I decided to finish my career. I wish I could finish in PSG, but I finished in Germany, and then I decided to be full-time as a general secretary.
Thank you very much for this honest answer. I mean, I think for many people out there, this is something that they don't know about this anecdote, and we really want to share these experiences as true as they came, and this is very important for you to tell and share. And actually, just to close this part about your professional football career, we would like you to go a bit deeper on your experience with the national team. Actually, you played 3 World Cups, you played the Olympics, you played European Championships. You have the full experience, the full package. And you retire as France's second most cap player, which is a remarkable milestone to share. So this girl who entered Clairefontaine, who lived this dream of moving to the castle in a way, but then she developed and transformed herself in La Roque. How was your trajectory with the national team? Tell us about the importance of this infrastructure, of this headquarters like Clairefontaine, and all the experiences you lived in all tournaments and matches you were part of.
I was really young when I played in the full national team. I was 16 years old when I was invited to the full national team. It was for a camp, and my first official games was at 17. And since then, I didn't move from the national team. I got to know 4 national team coach. So when I arrived in Clairefontaine as an intern, when they prepare us to be in the full national team. I never expected to be going to this national team, full national team, so young, and to be playing for 17 years in the national team. It was a great experience, and the older I get with the national team, and the more privileged I felt, because I've seen coaches passing, I've seen players passing, not staying too much in the national team, and I was still in the national team. Was it easy? It was not, because sometimes it was really hard to go in the national team. I was really young, and I was playing with girls. I was 17, and I was playing with girls who were 30 years old, who had like life experience, so much experience, who had different life. And it was not easy as a young player. I had tough time, not because from the environment, but sometimes because of my own teammates. But today, I have this strength of knowing what it is to be in a competitive world, what it is to be around women who are not always welcoming you, who are not always nice. But I got to meet a lot of people thanks to football, thanks to all my trips, and it gave me the will to continue to travel around the world. I got to learn different languages, and I love to learn different languages, speak English, speak Spanish, and I'm learning Portuguese, but I'm always keen to get to know people and their culture. It's really important for me. So football helped me for this. And today, as a woman in management, football has helped me so much, because we, as players, we are in a competitive world. And in management, it's the same. Because the behaviors, the people, the way they acted toward me in my career. I'm not surprised when I'm in the management world. And I've been through this. So some people say, are you okay with some decision, with some situation? I'm like, I'm okay, because I've been living this when I was a player. To be in a competitive world, to be in a stressing situation, to be in a situation when you have to deliver a project. I've been through it with football. So I think that my career, my sports career, just helped me to prepare myself. It's an introduction to the management world.
Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, as you mentioned before, you assumed the role of major importance in French football. You are right now, and you were before, the Secretary General of the French Football Federation for both men's and women's football. And let's highlight it again. This never happened before with men's or women's. You were a professional player and at the same time Secretary General of the French Federation. And this is important to set the example for everyone. Laura, can you please describe to us your role as a Secretary General and what are your main tasks and responsibilities within it?
So I have like a particularity because I have the title, General Secretary, and for those who know or who don't know, a General Secretary is a person who gives the economic and strategic vision of the Federation. But since at my Federation we have a CEO, so this person is in charge of this strategy and economic vision of our Federation. So I don't have the entire responsibility of my Federation. I'm more a communication person. I represent my president, Noël Le Graët. I represent him on the territory, in our regions, in our districts, in the clubs, but I also represent him abroad. So most of my work is like to communicate, to deliver speeches, to encourage men and women to visit the clubs, to inspire players, women. I can be called to inaugurate a stadium. I can be called for a conference to talk about the World Cup. Since last year, I was ambassador for the local organizing committee for the World Cup that we hosted. But I'm also in charge of developing and promoting women referees. So I'm multitasked, but part of my job is to communicate, and I love it. For me, it's kind of a nice step after my career. It's a warm-up, I would say.
Laura, and from the many projects that you have and for the many projects that the French Football Federation has, there is one particular that is not necessarily common in all the other federations, which is involved with referees, especially trying to recruit more girls and women into the profession. Can you tell us the main objective of this project?
Well, so this project, everyone is asking me, why do you want to develop and promote women referees? You've been a player. Why are you taking care of this subject? First, it's the subject that no one is really interested in. Not gonna lie, but I've been so passionate about it. No one was really interested in the woman referee. It's not an easy one. As a player, I discovered the referees' world. Or they work. They're always, the family of the trainers, of the players are different from the referees. And I got to learn what it is. So because today, our goal is to have more women referees because we have more and more competition with women, with young girls. So we need also to have the referees. Yeah. And I say, okay, it's gonna be a challenge. And some people were saying, it's gonna be hard. And I'd say it's okay. So I went to study what it is to be a referee. I went to some training. I went to see the men's professional train. I went to the classroom to see what was taught to them at the federation. I'm going during the year to visit the trainings, the camps for the young referees, to see what is taught to the referees. I'm talking to referees, professional referees, boys and girls, young girls, women professional, to know what it is to be a referee. What are their motivation? I need to understand what people can gain as referees. And it's been really, really, really rich for me to understand what it is to be a referee. Referees are like managers. It's like managers of a team, managers of a match. Those are people who are taking responsibility, people who are managing behaviors. They are managing the game. They are managing the environment of the game. And when I talk to young kids and the professional, I say, but what did you learn from being a referee? And say, I learned to be more confident in myself. And it's true that most of the referees that I meet are kind of introverts, but when they step up on the field, you can feel the confidence. And they told me that being a referee helped them in the career to be stronger, to be leaders at their work. And this is why I'm really happy to promote and develop women referees. And in general, I promote referees because I know that young kids, young players, if they have the education of referees, they will be better leaders. And for me, it's really important to also have like referees, young kids being referee at school. Because kids, when they play sports, they just play. They're fun, but give them the whistle, give them the opportunity to manage the game. And some of them are really surprised because they have to take decisions. We never see kids taking decisions, having to explain to the players around them, I'm taking this decision because you did it this bad, because they are like the law. They represent the law. They represent l'ordre. I said it in French, but when I say they represent l'ordre, it means they represent the law, they represent the one who is taking the decision. And I think when you put kids, young adults in the position to take responsibility, they grow. Because usually kids, they don't take responsibility. They just have fun. They just contest the authority of others. But when they are the authority, they learn that they have to explain, that they have to make decisions, and that they are not kids anymore. They have to be kind of the adults. That's why I think it's really important to teach kids to be referees. And this is what I think I was passionate about this challenge, to promote and develop referees, because I know it can bring something to people in general, not because of the federation need to have more women referees, but because it teaches people to be more adult, to be more respectful from the authority. And just to finish, so I started with 860 referees, and today we are more than 1,200 referees. And yes, we had like great programs. I invited the first woman referee in France. She was 84 years old when we invited her from Martinique, so from the Caribbean. We invited her for the World Cup. So she came and she met the young referees from France, and they met the professional referees from the Women's World Cup. So we had like nice projects around the women referees, and I'm glad that I can see the evolution and to see more women being referees. I even see in Portugal last week, assistant referee. I can see everywhere that things are moving. The girls are refereeing the men at the top competition of UEFA. So I'm happy. Things are moving.
Laura, fantastic answer. I have to say this because, and I have to thank you for that. I was a referee, and let me say that I was a referee only for 1 year. Maybe if I had someone that said to me what you actually said now, I would stay more time. Why? Because we need people that cares about it. We need people that are able and they believe to build an infrastructure, and actually goes there to the field and supports, especially the women, the men's too, because they also need. It's a different profession, let's say, on the field, and for the women even more, for various reasons. And if you go to a football match, you can see it. And let me also add something that you said. You mentioned Portugal. I'm Portuguese. Last week, there was an assistant referee for the first time in the second league. We are even now waiting for the first league. So let's hope so this season, if this happens. But I'm seeing there, and maybe in other countries. Of course, we have to celebrate, but we need more than celebrate this achievement. We need more times other women coming, more than the celebration, because the celebration is a picture, and we need more than a picture. More than something to say, okay, she achieved that. I don't know if they are about to do more or not, but at least take care of it, believe in it. And next week, give another nomination for another women to go there. We need this. We need people like you that goes there, believes in this cause, because as you said, this profession takes responsibility. And everybody that doesn't care about it, so just try to have a football match without a referee, and we will see what we have.
Well, but it is so true, because it's not about communication. It's also to see now maybe for all these girls who are referees to get the respect from the instructors.
Yeah.
Because there's the life of the top referees, but there's the life of the young ones. They need the support from their everyday training, from their everyday games. When they play in the small stadiums, they need all this support. And to finish, I forgot to mention that we have like 8 referees semi-professional now. So I'm really happy that we got now referees who are dedicated to referee and who get paid, and we get more camps training, and they will be training with the men's referees. So we're on the good path. We can do better, but it's a really good start to have like 8 women who are like semi-pros.
Yeah, amazing. And also an achievement for the referees was last year at the FIFA Women's World Cup 2019. The first time we had also VAR for the women's game in the major competition. And you were part of the tournament as an ambassador for the local organizing committee. Your country and the federation you represent hosted an unprecedented women's football tournament, changing the perspective and the future of women's football forever. How was it to take part in planning this event? And after a year of feedback, what would you say were the best accomplishments reached in France 2019?
Oh, it was, when I decided to start my career, there was a thought in my mind, should I play the World Cup or try? Or should I step up and see how it is to be in the organization? So one of my main motivation when I stopped, it was like to be part of the organizing committee of the World Cup. And or was it? It was great, because when you play a World Cup as a player, you don't leave the World Cup as a fan, as someone who is outside the competition. When you are a player, you play your game, then you see your family quickly, you see the fans quickly, and then you go back to the hotel, you prepare for the other game. And then I was like, I've been playing for 3 World Cups. So being on the other side, in the management part, it's all about the organization. It's not that I had like a big agenda with the World Cup, but I've been traveling so much. And part of the job was to go on the territory, because we didn't want the World Cup to be just organized in the 9 host city. We wanted to have friends, the entire country living for this World Cup, partying for this World Cup. So I did travel with the vice president of the federation, Brigitte Enriquez, who was in charge of developing women's football in France. We traveled also with the director of the Women's World Cup. I was in France on the territory. We were abroad. We went to England. I went to the Caribbean in Guadeloupe, promote the event, to listen to the territory, to listen to what they wanted to do around the World Cup. So we had like tournaments going on the entire year to promote the World Cup. We had different events going on to support the Women's World Cup, to see more women playing, to see girls from different backgrounds playing, because we just realized also that even if people think that football is accessible for everyone, it's not the case. There's some places where girls from some neighborhoods are not respected for playing football. This is a reality. I don't say it's happening everywhere in France, but we can see that in some places in France, this World Cup helps the kids to be more respected for playing football. So it's been amazing to travel around France and abroad. And during the World Cup, I was visiting all the stadiums to meet the volunteers. And that's been a really good experience. So every time I was traveling to the different host city, I was spending 1 hour, 1.5 hours with the volunteers, because they're making the competition. Those are the people who are invisible, but not really invisible. They are those little ants, not the little ants, but those people who are carrying the competition. They're like making this World Cup special, because they are the people who are available for the fans, available for the organization. They are making this competition work. And they're like taking time on their vacation, time on their family to be organizing this World Cup. So I've been spending time with all these people that are from France, they were from Mexico, they were from Guatemala, they were from Africa, they were from everywhere, coming with a good heart to make this competition special. So I got to meet them. They make me dance. They make me play football with them in the gymnasium with 40 degrees. They make me sign a lot of autographs, but it's okay. I don't care spending many hours with them signing autographs. And it was cool because I met people who have like such a good heart and who make our competition really, really special. So now, 1 year, 2 years after this World Cup, what was the impact? So the impact is that, of course, people got to know more the women's French national team. People got to see this World Cup, not only in France, but also abroad. And I've been doing a lot of conferences abroad since the World Cup, and people were really amazed by the quality of the game, the quality of the organization. You know, we were expecting 70,000 foreigners to the competition, coming to France to watch the competition. At the end, we had more than 200,000 foreigners coming to France. We had around, I don't remember exactly, but we had full stadiums, more than 20 games full of spectators. It was a crazy competition. So we have at the end of the competition, more respect for women's football, not only in France, but also abroad. With organizing this competition, more cities have more infrastructure for the women's game, better locker room for the girls. We have more women's team. We have more school girls girls, who have more school for girls, are aware that they can be also referees. Yes, I can see that people are get to have more respect for the women's girls, but I don't think it's enough. So we still have to work on this.
Yeah, we definitely need to keep the beat up. It's not something that should happen just every 4 years. It's just something that must be recognized every day of the year. And within this framework of changes for women's football, you start taking part of this elite group called the FIFA Legends. What does this mean to you? And also, if you can relate this to this turbulent time, which is social changes and social problems that are facing outside many countries, where there are problems within, I don't know, like racism and xenophobia, and also in the middle of this crisis that we're all living, movements like Black Lives Matters. How important is for you to create groups where you can portray diverse leaders, men, women, from the Caribbean, from Europe, with, I don't know, indigenous backgrounds? How important is this for you? What does it mean to you?
Well, being a FIFA legend first is like such a privilege, because I got to meet to be around the players, men and women I admire as a young kid. I'm not gonna lie, I was more admiring the men, since I couldn't see women's games. So I was really impressed by players. I mean, of course, Lilian Thuram, but Ronaldo. I got to meet Ronaldo, Cafu, Figo, like impressive player. And to be part of this group, the legends, has been great. And I was really happy to see that FIFA got to bring the men and the women legends to our World Cup in France, because it was bringing the best, I would say, quote unquote, the best of men and women football to attend the World Cup. To say, okay, girls in general, we go to the men's World Cup, but it was also good to see the men coming to support the girls. Eto'o came to see the Cameroon team. Tim Cahill from Australia came to see the Australian team. So every men's player were coming to support their women's team. And it was authentic. It was not just our communication. No, it was not this. It was like really giving this support. And I'm glad that FIFA did it, because football is not just about the men or it's women's time. No, it's bringing everyone together. And this Women's World Cup in France, I was really proud to see that at home we had like the good energy, the good vibes of the men and women leading the way to promote each other, to support each other. And today, as we see all this hard time happening in the US, but this hard time are happening in our championship. We're not gonna not see it. Racism is still happening in football. It's a reality. And as FIFA legends, but not only FIFA legends, and in general, I think it's important for those who can and for those who have the will to raise their voice. And when we talk, for example, about racism, it's not talking racism for the Black people or for foreigners or for this person of this origin. It's about being able to step up for what is good for our community, what is good for the people in general. And some players have this stage, have this ability to bring people around them, to listen to them. And I think it's really important. When you have the voice and you can raise it for others, it's good to do it. But it has to be authentic. And I guess you've seen the small campaign about the no to racism, no to violence. So that was the first step. And since then, we've been working with the FIFA legends, but with FIFA in general, to work on a campaign, something real, not communication. But how do we make sure that is not just happening and we are just sending pictures on Twitter or Instagram, but doing something for real, going to see the kids, going to see the people who are making football. So something is going to come up pretty soon with FIFA. and I've been part of it with other athletes, other FIFA legends, to make sure that we are bringing something to the community, and we are raising our voice and taking action to change, or to make sure that things can have an evolution for real.
We're excited to see what comes next for this group of FIFA legends, because it's a platform, as you said, to raise your voice, and you have influence in so many people around the world. So it's the best platform organized by the major governing body. The awareness can be spread even further. But now, going back to women's football, and we are ending this interview. We are reaching the end. So women's football changed immensely since you started till today. And today we can call you a legend of the game. If you had the opportunity to return to your childhood, to Laura, the little girl dreaming about playing football, what differences would you see now from then? What has improved during this time?
Well, the difference is first the consideration. I remember playing football and people were surprised to see me play and say, really, girls can play football? And I was playing in stadiums where I was playing, and players and the people watching the games were like, could touch me while I was playing. Today I'm glad to see that players are playing in big stadiums, in Division 1, Division 2 stadiums, main stadiums, that there's like communication around the game. And I can see that girls can play close to their home. They don't have to drive really far. I was lucky as a player, but I know for some of my teammates, they have to travel 1 hour to go to play for a women's team or to be accepted in a team. I can see the evolution in my country, and it's really positive. I'm also glad to see in other countries that the government are pushing the women's game abroad, all over the world. I feel good evolution, but I know we still have to continue to fight to promote the game, because when we slip a little, people are moving on for something else. So it's a constant work that you have to do to make sure that the young kids can play, that the girls get respected. And but I'm glad to see that some countries are realizing it's important to give a good consideration for the girls.
Amazing, Laura, amazing. And to close this episode, just to finish, I would like to read a part of the book, Under the Lights and in the Dark, that summarizes and testifies our interview today. And more than that, is the proof that your story and your example as a leader was meant to be. So the book says, every time the men's national team was back in residency, Thuram made a point of seeing Laura. They met in a cafe over coffee. He asked her about her football. She asked for advice. They talked about Guadeloupe. I was just a kid from nowhere. There was no reason for him to be nice to me, she says. Talking with him, she thought, this is the type of person I want to be approachable, to be nice. Georges will pass it forward. When she attends Boston College on a soccer scholarship, she will be the kind of player who knows every cafeteria worker by name, who eats with the bus driver, who sends autographed jerseys to his mentally challenged son. She will become a FIFA ambassador for the women's game and will travel around the world in an effort to give other girls the opportunities that she had. In her friendship with Thuram, the beauty of Clairefontaine is on display, a leader of one generation inspiring a leader of the next. So we would love that this story, your story, sets the example to more girls and women out there. Now they can see in you what you saw in Thuram. They can have their female role models because now they are visible. But to reach this point, your journey had a lot of obstacles and you broke barriers. You opened the doors to a lot of little Lauras out there. They have in you the same example you had in Thuram. And this is, after all, the circle of football. So Thank you, Laura, for your example and also for taking the time to be here with us, sharing your football journey. And to all of you, we hope you had a great time with us. You know, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram with the name 2 Goals Podcast. Thank you and take care.